There we are. Okay. We will call the PSCRB public meeting, May 6th, 2021 to order. And we will start with roll call. Ms. Fish,
Here.
Dr. Farmer,
Here.
Mr. Taylor,
Here.
Mr. Bennett,
Here.
Dr. Woodard, or I'm sorry, Dr. Black. Not in attendance. Mr. Woodard,
Thank you. Here.
is that here for Mr. Woodard?
Here.
Okay. And then Robert, myself, am here. So the only one not in attendance is Dr. Black, and we do have a quorum. We'll move on to item number 3. Mr. Hurt, do we have any public comment?
No, no one registered for public comment.
Okay. Quickly moving on to item number 4, which is the approval of the April meeting minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look at those minutes and go over them? And was there any corrections, additions? Hearing none, we will have a roll call to approve those minutes. Ms. Fish?
Yeah.
Dr. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Pastor Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
And I agree as well. I vote yes. Meetings are approved. Approval minutes. We'll quickly, let's see here. Move on to item number 5, which is the update on complaints received by the Bloomington Police Department. And Assistant Chief Walmsley, I'll let you take over, please.
Okay, for calendar year 2021, we have received a total of 8 citizen complaints. 4 of these complaints are still pending. I will note that my internal affairs sergeant has been on vacation, as well as a 2-week class throughout the month of April. So he just got back and is starting to catch up on all of them. Also, just a note of the additional complaints that came in, one is actually a complaint from 2019, and the other is actually a complaint from 2020. The incident happened, let's put it that way, happened in 2019, incident happened in 2020. Just a breakdown of the allegations in the complaints for 2021. We have 1 unlawful arrest. We have 3 dissatisfied with service. We had 1 harassment. Sorry, I can't read my writing here. 1 violation of policy, 1 excessive force, 1 unlawful search and seizure, and 1 that is unknown right now. We're trying to decipher. It's a long, just kind of a lot of stuff in there. I don't know really what the complaint is. Last month, do you want me to just go through all my stuff right now? Is that okay with you? Okay. Last month, we had a total of 4,206 calls for service. That's down about 258 calls for service from last April. Use of force report. I know I talked to Mr. Taylor last month that I would have this prepared for this meeting. I'm sorry, I forgot the last month, but 99.6% of all of our calls for service in April were handled without having any use of force, show of force, or any display of force. The other 0.4% is as follows. We had 13 incidents where some type of force was used with 16 officers being involved. 1 of these incidents had 3 officers that were involved in the same incident, is how the numbers are different there. We also had 3 incidents where officers showed or displayed some type of force, where there were 5 officers that were involved. So we had 1 incident that had 2 officers involved, or I'm sorry, 3 officers involved, 2 with a taser, 1 with a duty weapon. Going down to the taser report, we had 3 incidents that involved a taser. The first incident, these are all show of forces, so no taser was actually deployed. The first incident was an officer who responded to an order of protection. He began placing the subject in handcuffs when other people started to intervene in the actual arrest. He pointed the taser at the subject that was under arrest and directed him back towards his location. At that point, the arrest was completed. The second one was, like I said, another show of force. This was a subject who had a gun in their hand. The first responding officer had their weapon pointed at this person, while the subsequent responding officers got out and pointed tasers until they could successfully get that person in custody. The third show of force incident was a subject who ran from a traffic stop, and officers had to chase him in a real short foot pursuit. The officer pointed a taser at him until the other officer could get that subject placed in custody. I'll pause just for a second right there if anybody has any questions in regards to that before I go on to any of the updates.
Yes, I do have a question. First question is, if any of those complaints, do you see any of them coming to our board for a review?
I'm not aware of any, no.
Okay, and then my second question was, in any of these incidents, were any officers hurt on the job?
I believe there is one use of force where an officer was injured. I don't have that in front of me right now, though. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's not a problem. Anybody, let's start with Ms. Fish first.
So on the tasers, you're saying they were brought out, displayed 3 times, but they were never actually used.
Correct. They're actually displayed. There's 4 officers who displayed tasers, but none of them were actually used. No.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And that answered my question as well.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Go ahead with your finish your report there, Mr. Walmsley.
Okay. Just a quick update for you guys. Our new officers who are at the academy, they're now in week 7 of 14. So they're right at halfway done. I was actually down there on Wednesday to visit with them just to check on their progress. Everything's going well. We currently have 2 more officers who are finishing up the field training process. Hopefully they'll be solo patrol, I would say, within the next month. One thing I wanted to bring to everybody's attention here, we're having a heck of a time recruiting, and that's why I'm going to be, I know you guys are sick of hearing me ask this, but asking for your help with this recruiting process. But just to give you a little idea of where we're going to be sitting here shortly, we just had 3 officers retire. We got 1 officer who was off of probation who resigned to go into a complete different profession. We got 2 officers who didn't make it through probation. At that point right now, we're sitting 8 officers down, with about another, I would say, between 2 and 4 retiring before the end of October. We then have 3 more officers who are waiting a disability hearing. So there's a very good possibility we're going to be 15 to 16 officers down by the end of September. Our current recruiting phase is going on until the end of May. Right now, May 31st is when it closes. Our numbers are not very good. We've received 116 applications, of which only 49 people have tested. Typically, I'll have a group, when it comes to the PT test, which is the next portion, I'll have a group of 100 plus at a minimum to test. So we're like half that number right now. So even if we get new officers hired anytime soon, it's roughly a year before they're actually on the street. So we're going to be hurting for some manpower, and it's not just our department, it's every department pretty much in the United States right now. But I just want to put that information out as I come to you guys all the time asking for your help in regards to recruiting. That's why. One thing that, I mean, we're out there on Facebook, we're out on all kinds of social media sites trying to recruit. Officer Furman is going to be putting together a video tomorrow for all the applicants who have not tested yet. So roughly about 60 plus applicants. We had sent them an email to invite them to a Zoom meeting we're calling it BPD's Getting Hired 101. So he's kind of going to walk them through the process. Once that's done, that is going to go on our Facebook page. So anybody, even if you haven't applied, is going to have access to that. So any suggestions from anybody on the board in regards to helping us recruit, they will always be appreciated. So I will turn it over at that point.
Thank you, Chief Walmsley. It looks like we do have a couple of questions. We'll start with Mr. Taylor and then we'll go to Ms. Fish.
Thank you for the report, Chief Walmsley. Could you just give us a short overview of the minimum requirements again for being hired at the Bloomington Police Department? Just a general overall minimum requirements.
Yes, 21 years of age. You will have to pass the physical fitness test, which is a standard test throughout the state of Illinois. You cannot have a felony record, high school diploma. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. You'll have to pass a background check, but just to get the minimum stuff, the main stuff is you got to be 21, no felonies on your record, as well as be able to pass the PT test. Them are the three big ones. I'm sorry, in a high school education.
Is that it, Mr. Taylor? Okay, Ms. Fish and then Mr. Woodard.
I'd like to suggest, Chief Chad, that we had such an overwhelming success with putting the website and putting survey out there on the new police chief. Where could we possibly post more information about looking for police, what the requirements are, and what the pay scale is? Is it like listed on the city website? Is it listed on the McLean County website? That kind of thing, where we're getting it out. Is it listed on our website, since we're in, it's supposed to be helping or working with the police, to where we can get it out to some more, to the community more. Thank you.
It is on the city website. I know that. We have it on our Facebook site, which has just tons and tons of followers on there. So we try to get it out. I just got printed up recently. I've got little, they're like the size of a business card that we can hand out that tells you the qualifications for the police department, as well as what the PT test is on the back. I believe there might be some salary stuff on the front. I would be more than willing to give them out to you guys, that you could pass them out in the community as well, if you have people that are interested. If that's the case, just let me know and I'll get them to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Woodard.
Yes. Chief, that academy training, that's 6 weeks?
It's 14 weeks right now. It's about to go up though.
Okay, going up to,
We don't know yet. We're waiting to see what the Training and Standards Board decides. My guess is it's probably going to add on another 2 to 3 weeks.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Taylor, go ahead.
Chief, of the 15 people that you're estimating that by September or so that you'll be down, is that inclusive of the number that is currently in the academy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that if you take that the 15 that were down, you can really tack on the 3 that are still in the academy. So we're really going to be down 18 for the next year until they get out and get on through their FTO program, which that's roughly a 6-7 month process.
Pastor Bennett, did you have a question?
No,
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments for Assistant Chief Walmsley? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Chief Walmsley, for your report. We greatly appreciate that. We'll move on now to item number 7, as Assistant Chief Walmsley covered number 5 and 6. Number 7 is the survey results and review. I believe everybody, Mr. Hurt did send a link out, and everybody was able to, if you're not, please let us know, able to view all the results. And I believe it was a little over 11,000 people took this result or took this survey. The next thing we have to do is look over it and see what information we want to pull out of it and report back to the mayor, city council, and the city manager. I will leave that more towards because the new chair and vice chair. However, I will listen to suggestions as what information do we want to share? Do we want to share the comments? Do we want to share, because there's a lot of information in there, so we can't share we can, but we have to somehow congest it into the main points that were shared. So Dr. Farmer, I see with your hand up. You want to go ahead?
Yes, thanks. I was looking through the survey results more closely, and I just wanted to point out a problem that I noticed. If you look at the demographic variables, which would be the things like age, gender, ethnicity. For ethnicity in particular, you had 11,174 people answer that question, of which it looks like 92% said they identify as Black. But if you compare that to the statistics of Bloomington as a city, that is statistically impossible. So Bloomington has about 78,000 people, of which about 10% identify as Black, which would mean 7,800, but that figure includes adults and children. So you see the problem here, right? Like if 92% of those 11,000 some answered that, that means 10,300 people approximately identify as Black, which is just not possible. So I would suggest that because we know that is inaccurate, that we possibly just exclude the demographic variables altogether. An additional reason I would suggest that is because we can't really do between group comparisons since that number is so large for that particular response group that you're not going to have any meaningful data if you try to compare groups to one another.
Thank you. Yes, I did notice that too. And before, Serena, before I go to you, I want a question to Mr. Hurt. Am I correct by saying that you can only take this survey one time? Is that correct, Mr. Hurt? Oh, he was on. Looks like he's not on. He was on. Okay, we'll come back to him. Miss,
True. That you could only do it once.
you only do it once and then you were locked out. Oh, there he is. Mr. Hurt, is that correct? You can only take this survey one time?
Yeah, I think you're locked out of it once you complete it. But the other thing is too, we have no way of knowing if those numbers are legitimate because it's not confined to people in Bloomington. So anybody could have taken it and skewed those numbers.
So
The other thing is,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry. The other thing is when you decide what you want in terms of a hard copy of that report, we had 535 people, I think, make comments. So that report's going to be like 50 pages long with the comments.
And so if I was to take the survey, let's say on my phone, could I then log into my laptop and take it again?
I think that's possible.
Okay. Ms. Fish, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
I was going to repeat what Mr. Hurt just said. One of the things that we did with Mr. Hurt's help and Amy Overton is we made the poster and we put it up at early voting, which was March 12th through the 31st. So in the same building was all the county residents. So it's very possible, and a lot of them took it out with them, so we did not limit it to Bloomington residents, as far as I know. We did post it at early voting, and that would have been all of McLean County, including Normal, at which point we could technically reach those numbers.
Dr. Farmer, go ahead.
Yeah, I would argue that we still have some evidence here that this data is incorrect. And I just personally would not feel comfortable including things like that if we have questions about the validity of some of these responses. I think the responses about the police are perfectly fine. I see no reason why people would have, been dishonest about things like that. I guess, as you mentioned, people perhaps could have taken it twice via phone and online. But either way, we do get a good general sense of how people feel about the new police chief hire coming up and about BPD. On a separate note, I was going to make a suggestion about going through those 500 some comments. But if anyone else wants to say something first, I'll hold off.
I'd be interested to hear what you had to say about the 500 comments.
Okay. So in my research, I do a lot of qualitative work, which involves going through a lot of data about just what people say. And one of the things that we do is we code comments on surveys, which basically means one of us would go through and just essentially read the comments and say it falls into this category. It can be general, like positive, negative. It can be specific to comment about police chief, comment about traffic enforcement, et cetera, whatever you decide. And then others would go through and double check those categories. So what you essentially do is you narrow it down to, like, let's say maybe 5 of the most important categories of those responses, and then you parse out what the most important comments were as examples.
That is.
Yeah, Dr. Farmer is absolutely right. A lot of those comments were extremely repetitious and fell into about 6 or 7 opinions that kept repeating throughout the comment section.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Farmer. I agree. That is a great start. I think it just, as a whole board, we'll have to decide on, how to move forward. But I'm in agreement with that. I think I see Mr. Taylor with his hand up. Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Dr. Farmer, for that insight. I completely agree that when I reviewed the demographic, the demographic portions of the survey, I knew it was absolutely impossible that many, that the percentage of African Americans that took that survey was as high as it was. It was impossible, which leads me to believe that it was purposely, the information either was fictitious or people had other reasons and motives for which they checked that the African American box. Be that as it is, I think it's totally correct that we discount that information as we review the results of the survey. The other part is I completely agree that by categorizing the comments into the boxes or columns or silos that you're suggesting is the absolute best way to review the survey results, with the other information being pretty much generic in that it's the numbers that and the people's actually qualifications of the survey question. Those things could be considered to be absolutely accurate and should be included in any results that we report out. And then lastly, what I'm going to suggest, and I guess I'll just put it out there for discussion, is that because of your expertise in reviewing this type of information, I would suggest that Dr. Farmer and maybe another member of the board be tasked with completing the summary of this survey, and presenting it at to the city council, and or at the next quarterly meeting that we have, and of course we get into that discussion later on. And my question to the board would be, and something to food for thought, is, and I guess it would depend on where we are with the city in ways of, are we going to be in time for the next quarterly meeting able to meet in person, or is it still going to be a Zoom quarterly meeting? But that I'm putting quite a bit out there for us to be thinking about, and I'm hoping that the board sees a way around to include Dr. Farmer's suggestions in the way of summarizing the survey results. Now I'm done.
Well, I took, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Fish, go ahead.
Since this was originally started, unless I'm mistaken, by Not in Our Town, correct?
Yeah, we both collaborated with it
So
together. Yes.
Yes, that she worked with the leaders of Not in Our Town and review again to keep it very open, transparent, that since they originally started the survey, came to us, worked with Mr. Taylor and Reverend Black to, tweak it a little bit. And then we got it out. Then they agreed to go out to community. So my suggestion would be Dr. Farmer and I guess Mike from Not in Our Town.
Yeah, I believe Mr. Machika also had help from a professor from Wesleyan. However, I don't recall his name. So I also would suggest to include that professor and to see how, those results, how we can compile those results, and if any that we need to discount as far as, kind of being skewed a little bit. And I also agree that this should be part of the next quarterly meeting, which we'll get to be an item on the agenda where it can be discussed openly and get feedback from the residents to see what their belief, what they're thinking about it, and hopefully have some people who took the survey attend as well. Again, I don't know about I guess Mr. Hurt on here, looking forward to June. Any word on if we can meet in person yet or not?
I'll contact the city clerk. She is following whatever the state recommendations are. And if that changes, I'll let you know, but I'll ask her anyway to see if anything's on the horizon for June in terms of changes.
And Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I can also just say, so really it's a month by month basis right now, and we're following the governor's emergency declarations, which currently, at least for the month of May, still limit attendance to in-person meetings. So, he announced today, I think they were going to the bridge plan. I don't know if that'll start to loosen up a little bit, but we probably will not know until the end of this month what that next month's going to look like.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, I think we're, on a day by day still. But yeah, I would strongly suggest to have it as if not the only topic on the agenda for the quarterly meeting. And then again, like I said, hopefully attract residents who took the test, or I'm sorry, took the survey and get their feedback. Mr. Taylor, I've seen your hand up.
I was just going to add and volunteer that since it was Dr. Black and myself and Mike Matika that kind of put the survey together, that I would be happy to work with Dr. Farmer and Mike Matika to help summarize the survey results. And I'm not sure if that needs to be in the form of a motion or just what, but I'm thinking that with Dr. Farmer's expertise in helping to summarize and review this type of material, that I'd be willing to help with any legwork that needs to be done.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Taylor. I still haven't heard from Dr. Black. We'll have to reach out to her and just to see, get a status on her. But Ms. Fish, I seen your hand up.
I think that's a great idea. My focus was that to include the group that originally started it, which was Mike. And I'm happy if Dr. Black is available, but certainly anything that Mr. Taylor takes on will get a good result, whether we like it or not. So I think that's great. I don't think unless you want to vote on it, but I think that's a great idea.
Pastor Bennett.
Just wanted just some clarity. So is what we're talking about right now is the summarizations specifically dealing with the comments, or are we talking about the subgroups summarizing the entire thing? So which one? I just want to make sure. Are we talking about solely with Dr. Farmer? Are we talking about just the comment portion? Or are we talking about the overall summary in itself?
I believe we were talking about the overall summary, just because, the way it was, I don't want to say skewed, but the results, as Dr. Farmer mentioned earlier, we just want to make sure we want to have the whole survey is correctly represented. Is that correct, Dr. Farmer? Okay. And I don't think we need a motion for that. I would just caution, just make sure we don't violate any open meeting acts. If and when you guys do meet, or if it's virtual, just be aware of those. We don't violate any of that. Was there any other questions, comments on the survey? Mr. Wood.
I'll just comment relating back to what Dr. Farmer said in terms of that ethnicity. The results of that survey should just basically disqualify that. Just simple enough. That's just my opinion.
Well, thank you, sir. Well, so before we move on, we will leave it up to Dr. Farmer, if it's okay with you, and Mr. Taylor to reach back out to Mr. Machika, and also the gentleman, I believe it was a gentleman, professor from Wesleyan, and go back and just kind of have a discussion on the results, and especially the comment section as well, and just to see how we want to move forward as far as categorizing and summarizing everything. Okay, Mr. Taylor.
I think that Mr. Hurt, it's possible that you could produce the survey results, hard copies of those for our review.
Yeah, I'll check with IS for the best way to get that. I think you actually have to have a paid account to print that out. And I think ours may have been done on a free account. So I'll check with IS to see the best way to get their documentation.
Okay, and then I guess I could reach out to, I'll take it upon myself to reach out to Mike Matika, Dr. Farmer, to get a good time for us to meet. If that's okay, I'll get some availability from you, and we could possibly do this virtually, or we could do it in my garage for that matter. It doesn't matter, but it would work either way for me.
Okay. All right, I'll work on that, getting that hard copy.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Mr. Taylor and Dr. Farmer for taking the initiative to handle the survey. And Mr. Hurt, thank you for your help as always. We greatly appreciate that. We will move on now to number 8 on the agenda, which is the update on youth board members. And Mr. Hurt, I will lean on you on that. Have we received any applications for those 2 openings for youth board members?
We have advertised in the schools and in local nonprofit organizations that have youth programs. We have received 2 applications. On both applications, the applicants indicate they do not live within the corporate limits of the city of Bloomington.
sorry about that, I was muted. Do we recall if that was a requirement? Because I do think as a member of the PSCR board, it does require that you live in the Bloomington city limits. Is that correct, Mr. Jurgens?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up that ordinance and look,
Okay.
so I don't tell you the wrong answer, give you the wrong answer. Typically, that is required.
So, Mr. Hurt, were those the only two applications that we did receive?
Yeah, those are the only two so far.
Okay.
And that was the second time around, we sent reminders to those schools and to the not-for-profits to advertise those two positions.
So may I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
The not-for-profits, you're talking pretty much about the stakeholders that help initiate and get the PSCRB in position. So we're talking about groups such as
Boys and Girls Club,
yeah,
Youth Builders.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so those organizations. Okay.
Yes, Ms. Fish, go ahead.
I know they were originally a stakeholder, but have we talked to, or did we reach out to the NAACP? Because I know they've been very active in getting started a youth council. And has anyone maybe talked to Linda Foster if there's someone in that group that she could recommend?
Yeah, my office and Human Resources were actually have a partnership going on with NAACP for summer jobs for youth who fall into that age category, actually. Yeah, we did put it out to them, but I think they just need a refresher. So we have a meeting tomorrow, and I'll put that again out to them.
Okay, just at one of our community meetings, which Ms. Foster usually attends, she seemed to be very receptive and they were just getting the council started. And at another meeting since then, again, she was very receptive. So I just thank you for maybe reaching out one more time.
Sure, we're gonna do it tomorrow.
Okay.
And I see this as another agenda item for the quarterly meeting is promote the youth board member application out there. Jeff, were you able to find anything?
Yes. So one of the purposes talks about adding a resident perspective to civilian complaints. In the composition, it doesn't specify. I'll have to look to see if our code otherwise has provisions on it. Typically, all of the commissions and committees, they're made up of residents, unless there's some exception in there that you have to live within 1.5 miles or something like that. But I'll continue to take a look at that. And we may also talk to the new mayor to see if, anybody's approached him separately, or if he may know of somebody interested in serving as well. Obviously, just getting his feet wet on some of these issues.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you for looking into that. So as far as right now, I say on those two youth board members, we will still take applications. However, maybe let's reach back out to them and just let them know that we're still looking through our rules and making sure we're meeting those. I don't want to say that they can't right now because it's possible that they could. So let's just kind of at least keep them in the loop and letting them know that we're still trying to look for, make sure we're following the rules on that. Mr. Taylor.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I will tell you that some of these cities similarly sized cities to Bloomington, who have youth on various commissions and boards, they were offering an incentive $50 each. One city was doing $50 each time they came to a board meeting, mileage and things of that nature. So that's something we might want to check into.
Okay, yeah, that's a great idea. I know, especially with vaccines, I know some companies are doing incentives. So yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you for that, Mr. Hurt. Did anybody else have any questions or comments on the youth board membership?
Oh,
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
I would just suggest that those of us who have reason to be in touch with youth or work with youth in any type of an environment. I know that my wife personally works with the Not in Our School group that was kind of boisterous with the establishment of the youth board. For us to reach out to those groups to more or less encourage them to submit applications and for consideration.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. And to anybody else on the board who may be involved with youth, maybe just kind of give them a quick overview of what would be required, maybe. Sometimes it maybe could be a little overwhelming for them, or they might feel a little intimidated. This board is easy to work with. And that a voice that we do need is the youth, as they mentioned a couple months ago when they were pushing for youth board involvement and voting, right? So.
Exactly.
Any other questions, comments before we move on to item number 9? Hearing none, we will move on to number 9, which is the selection of the new chair and vice chair. Before we give our recommendations, I will say it's been an honor to work with this group. This group is from day one has been cohesive, has gotten along very well. Has listened to each other and to our residents. My hope is that I know this board will continue to do that, and especially with the youth board members coming on board, hopefully soon, it's only going to get better. And thank you again, everybody, for serving not only your community, but your friends, your neighbors, and all of our residents. With that being said, do we have, first of all, anybody who would like to volunteer to be chair and or vice chair? I see a couple hands. We'll start with Dr. Farmer.
I did email Mr. Vasquez about questions about what being chair of the board entails because I'm fairly new. But it seemed to me at the last meeting that those who, we had suggested previously had other engagements. And I would be more comfortable if the person who chairs this board actually wants to do it and can make the time for it. So that being said, I'd be willing to do it if the others that we suggested did not want to, it did not change their mind. Let me put it that way.
Ms. Fish, go ahead.
So again, it's kind of the same thing. I think most of the other people, I've mentioned this before, most of the other people on the board, I think a little bit, they've been here longer than me. I've only been back in Bloomington for a few years. I lived in LA for 40 years. I'd be happy to be vice, but I don't think I'm the one to be chair, just because I think some of the rest of you have much more deeper things in the community right now. And I'm happy to do the work. I'm happy to, I work with Mr. Hurt to do the poster. I think the results that we finally got on the survey, Ms. Traylor and I are the ones that said, let's go out to the community. Let's not just keep it in the stakeholders. So I have no problem with Dr. Farmer being chair if the other people that we've suggested don't want to do it.
Thank you, Ms. Fish. Thank you,
You're
Dr. Farmer. Any other comments, questions before we kind of give our suggestions? Mr. Woodard, go ahead.
Yes. Again, I appreciate everyone's work on this. I would support Dr. Farmer serving as chair and Ms. Fish serving as co-chair. I think you say something that's really relevant. I mean, I hear this this whole notion of if someone did not want to take the position, and I don't know that that's even an issue. Like for example, we talked about this at the last meeting, and I was hoping to kind of pin down Mr. Bennett and talk a little bit more about it before this meeting and see what that would look like. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't even had the availability to even do that. So, and again, for what you've done for this committee, I think it would behoove us to have someone in there that could really be able to make themselves available to possibly reach that bar that you set for us.
Thank you, Mr. Woodard. Mr. Bennett.
Yeah, again, let me just say really quickly to Mr. Vasquez, you've done an excellent job following our first chairman, Mr. Taylor. Both of you guys have done an exceptional job. Whoever the next chairman is, I believe they will do an exceptional job as well. As to, again, just to my comments this week, I'm definitely committed to the board. I've signed up to continue on the board. I'm definitely committed to it. It was just me speaking last week from the point of, I know the chairman's work and just honoring what both chairmen have done is a little more than the entire board's work, right? And so just looking at my overall schedule, if I'm going to be committed to something, wanting to be all the way committed. So I'm committed to whatever the board decides, but I do respect as well Dr. Farmer's mindset that, hey, you know, if I have maybe a little more time than some others have stated that they have in order to do this particular position, and if she felt she could, I would respect that as well. But as to the board, I think we're all committed to the level that we can give our best to it. But I do appreciate Dr. Farmer's comments. And as for me, I do whatever the board decides, but just wanted to be able to, if in that type of position, put my best foot forward. So I just wanted to kind of clear what my comments were too. But obviously, I think anyone on the board would do whatever the board, you know, was asking them to do. But I would agree with Mr. Woodard's comments as well with Dr. Farmer.
Thank you, Pastor Bennett. Mr. Taylor, do you have anything? Yes, sir.
I wanted to be last, and I wanted to be last on purpose. First of all, Dr. Farmer, I appreciate you stepping forward, and I agree with your sentiments of the magnitude that the chair position offers and maintains. First of all, Mr. Vasquez, you've done a wonderful job as chairman of this group, and our thanks to you as the past chair for stepping in and us not missing a beat from our initial board members and those who have served in the past and those who will serve in the future. Those that the work that we have done, we've kept our egos at the door. We've been as transparent as we can be. We've listened to the community, and particularly in this past year, with the many limitations that we've had, I'm not even sure. Did you actually chair a meeting where we were all face to face? I didn't think that you had. So the pandemic kind of took over right about the time that you were elected as chairman, and you've not even had us all in the same room at the same time. Yet the leadership of the board has been maintained, and we've still done good things. So thank you, Mr. Vasquez, for everything that you've done. I would support Dr. Farmer being our chairman, notwithstanding Reverend Bennett and Mr. Woodard and Ms. Fish for the support that you guys would lend, because I'm sure that whatever questions our chairman would have, we're definitely one board, and we've always worked well together. So you would, Dr. Farmer, you would have any support that you would need just by asking members of our board from ways of history and ways of, since we have Mr. Juergens and Chief Walmsley and Mr. Hurt as our support mechanisms for what it is that the board undertakes, you would definitely be supported by whatever means that was necessary. So if it's quite appropriate, I would nominate Dr. Farmer to be our next chairman and Ms. Fish to be our vice chairman. And if that's appropriate, then I'll make that necessary motion.
Yeah, Mr. Taylor, you just repeated what I was just going to say. I agree, Dr. Farmer. If you're willing to take the lead, you have the support of the board, the city council, Bloomington Police Department, city, and Mr. Hurt. Everybody's behind you and will help you in any way possible. And of course, if you always need any help, I'm here. Please reach out to me. Also to Mr. Taylor, I had a great teacher to learn from. Yeah, your support is there. And I agree. Do we need to make a motion that I would motion that Dr. Farmer be the new chair and that Ms. Fish be the vice chair?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion before we vote? Hearing none, we will start with Mr. Taylor.
Aye. Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Pastor Bennett,
Yes.
and Ms. Fish?
Yes, with the idea that next year, Mr. Woodard and Mr. Bennett, it's your turn.
Hey, now we need to go back and do the vote.
Dr. Farmer?
Yes.
Perfect. And I absolutely
Fair enough.
100% yes. So congratulations, Dr. Farmer, Ms. Fish. I am sure you guys will do excellent work. Like I said, you have the whole board behind you, and congratulations, and look forward to watching the meetings and to hearing a new voice as well. I think every time we get a new person, it's always great just to get that different perspective of the community. So thank you very much for willing to serve. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ms. Fish, go ahead.
I don't know if now is time. We need to put on our next agenda that Dr. Farmer, then one of the first things we're going to have to do is reach out to the new mayor and see if they have any applications for grown-ups on the board.
Yes.
Old people?
Yeah, Mr. Taylor, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Fish. I was going to suggest that this being Chairman Vasquez's last meeting, primarily because he thought that there was 31 days in April, that we were able to extend him for another month. That we do reach out to the mayor because that will leave us down a board member, and that we do need a suggestion and a new board member. I would also like to mention that one of our board members, Reverend Dr. Black, is going through some serious health issues, and we need to be in prayer for her. But until such time that we have more information, we will be down one member, and Dr. Farmer, I think that's number one on your agenda to reach out to the mayor for a replacement for Mr. Vasquez. And thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you. I did look back, Mr. Taylor, and I did have the correct date on there. I wanted to, yeah, it was correct, April 30th. So, okay, we'll finishing up with that. We'll move on to item number 10, which Mr. Jerkins, we want to discuss item number 10.
Is that the closed session?
Yes, closed session. Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna wait on that for the next meeting.
Okay. Okay. So
And staff will have some additional recommendations for you at that time. So
Okay.
no closed session tonight.
All right. Thank you very much. So moving on to number 11, which is future meetings, dates, times, location, and topics. Dr. Farmer, I think you've got a couple agendas on there, especially the next meeting is our quarterly meeting, which would be June 3rd. And that would be, of course, as of right now, still virtual. And what we usually do, what we did here in the last year is we combined the regular meeting and the quarterly meeting. So we started the regular meeting at 5 and just kind of took care of some items, meeting minutes and stuff like that. And then the quarterly meeting will start right after at 5:30. And that way we're not, taking up too much time. Some agenda items on there. I would suggest, again, this is just me, it could come from the board as well. Discuss the survey results. Talk about the youth board membership application out there. And then, as Mr. Taylor said as well, as the adult member applications. I know you'll be down one board member, possibly two. And maybe just reach out if possible to Dr. Black and just to see how she's doing and if she still is wanting to continue to serve. I know she is battling health issues. Those are the items that I have. Does anybody else on the board have any items? Mr. Taylor, go ahead.
I think that we should also include our regular police reports for complaints received, as well as the reports, the other reports that Chief Walmsley shares with the board on a regular basis for reports of force and whatnot, as well as the efforts to recruit additional officers. I think that that's always important that we include those things on our agenda because we are the PSCRB, and that's part of the reason why we were put in place to make sure that we are addressing concerns of the community regarding policing. And the survey results report, I think, is definitely most important and should probably be toward the tail end of the agenda to give us more time to more or less have dialogue about it.
Perfect. Any other agenda topics? Yes, Ms. Fish.
I want to go along in the same thing as Mr. Taylor, that I think it's also as soon as possible, maybe even before the next meeting, that we get something out to the council and the mayor and the city manager, that we do have the results. And with Mr. Hurt's help, I did direct some of those people to the SurveyMonkey website, but I think those are the people that kind of need to know what's going on and encourage them to also come to the quarterly and hear the stakeholders, because this particular survey is a big thing. And since we're also in the process of trying to hire a new police chief, which is what the survey supposedly is for, I'd like sooner than later that we put it out there, and that more to follow with the comments, review, or comments, review, if they request ahead of time, maybe make it available. If they want to request ahead of time, a copy of both the questions and the answers. We should make that available to all the stakeholders too. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. Which reminds me, Dr. Farmer, City Manager Gleason said he would ask the chairman of the PSCRB board to be on the committee of selecting the new chief. So I believe he would be probably reaching out whenever that time comes, just to give you a heads up on that. I will also send you the email or the list of all the future meeting dates for the rest of the year, because we decided that back in January, or I believe December, we set the schedule for those. So I will share that with you, so you have that in advance in case there's a a conflict of on a date that you might not be available, or some of the board members. Yes, Mr. Taylor.
And I also suggest that Dr. Farmer, that we reach out to local media to more or less publicize the quarterly meeting at 6 p.m. on the 3rd, because we are wanting to discuss the survey results, and because we did more or less publicize on the city website the survey and encourage citizens from across the entire community to participate in the survey, that we would also like for them to be present for the survey results as we're about to share them. And that, of course, would be inclusive of the city council and city manager and the mayor, and let them worry about their own meeting parameters that we have to be conscious of, as we ran into that at one of our quarterly meetings once before, with them being in more or less a quorum situation that Mr. Juergens has to worry about. But I don't think that that's for us to worry about. I think it's when we talk about the survey results, we would like as many people there as possible.
Yeah, I'll be back over on Monday.
Dr. Farmer, go ahead.
Is the quarterly meeting
What time you want to talk?
5:30 or at 6?
Quarterly meetings at 6.
Okay.
Our meeting is prior to that at 5. So we'll actually have to adjourn and then reconvene at 6 for the quarterly meeting.
Thanks.
So, and
Yes,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
just going to say, so, and I'm not sure this is what you're saying, but in terms of outside of a noticed public meeting, only 2 of you can talk about PSCRB business. So, 2 of you, that's fine. More than that, it's got to be a noticed public meeting.
Correct. Yes. That. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, for sharing that. Yeah. And that's with, if they discuss anything else, then make sure it's only 2 of them. Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Any other agenda items for the next quarterly meeting? Ms. Fish.
I just want to clarify, because the last time we did this, we kind of did the regular meeting and the quarterly meeting together. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we started at 5. And we just
Yes,
the meeting together.
that is correct. Now, and I think it's still okay to do that. Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we did that because we didn't want to kind of go over the same thing twice. So is that correct, Jeff? We can combine those?
Yes. Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. The code provision only says that the PSCRB may hold quarterly meetings with neighborhood groups, civic organizations, et cetera, to discuss community concerns relating to public safety and police procedures. So I think if you just want to have tack this on to one of your regular meetings as like kind of a open forum or open discussion, for that portion of that meeting, that that is fine if you want to do it that way and not have yet another additional meeting on top of that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I believe that's the reason we did it, because we were just like, there's no reason to log in one time and have our meeting, then log off, then log back in. And so we just did it in one meeting and just added in the second half the open forum to the community to a little back and forth, if you may. So yes, that we can do that. So any other questions or topics for quarterly meeting?
So then I'm to understand that then we will have just one meeting, which will begin at what time?
Dr. Farmer, would you like to?
In that case, it would begin at 5, since that's when our regular meeting would start, and we're combining them.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, Dr. Farmer, go ahead.
Just real quick, there was some conversation a couple months ago about creating an official email for the PSCRB for the public to contact. Is that still going to happen, or are we going to make our emails available, or how is that going to work?
Jeff, did we, I don't think I ever reached back out to you, but I believe you said that could be possible.
Yeah, I think that can be easily done. Let us follow up with IT about that. And I think what we were talking about was maybe just having one email address, and that way it'll get captured on the city system. And so if there's ever a FOIA or anything like that, it'll be easy enough for us to produce it. But we'll follow up on that and get you an answer.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. Any other topics for the quarterly meeting before we sign off? Yes, Ms. Fish.
Just quickly, I want to thank Mr. Hurt and Amy Overton again from the city for the help they were in getting the poster done with no budget. I kept hearing that there's no budget. Getting it done and up and out. And I think they had a lot to do with helping to make the survey a success and getting it into the community. So I really want to thank them for their help on doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fish. We got to work on that budget thing.
There you go, Dr. Farmer. That's another thing I put on your list there.
We're going to push. We need money.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Dr. Farmer, and a second by Mr. Taylor. We will take a vote before we sign off. Dr. Farmer,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Woodard,
Yes.
Ms. Fish,
Yes.
and Pastor Bennett.
Yes.
All right, signing off. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Mr. Vasquez.
Have a good day.
Hey, good luck.
Best wishes.
Thank you.